We have finally made it to the end in our continuing Modelo off-season football coverage. We've been ranking the top 5 players in every position. I mean, breaking it down from defensive line, defensive end, safety, corner, linebacker, tight end, wide receiver, interior offensive line, tackle, quarterback, running back, top defensive players, top specialists, and now we get the top offensive players. We'll start our Road to Arlington series on Monday, but we got to conclude it with the top 5 offensive players in the Big 12 heading into this 2026-2027 season. James isn't here, but we have this list. Taman Turner will be playing the role of James today and reading each of his picks for his list. So let's start with James. Taman, give me the number 5 player for James on his list in terms of offensive players.
At number 5, James has Joe Cotton.
The offensive tackle from Cincinnati. And I like where James's head is at in terms of, this could easily become a top 5 quarterbacks list, which we already did. And so finding variety across the board on offense to find players in different positions is a good move. And Cotton's a great add there. So Joe Cotton, number 5, the offensive tackle, maybe the best offensive tackle in the Big 12 in a grouping of really good tackles. A really important piece to Cincinnati's potential success this year. Joe Cotton checks in at number 5. Number 5 for me is also not a quarterback, and that would be Houston wide receiver Amari Thomas. For the sake of variety, I think Amari Thomas is one of the more important players for Houston this season. We've talked a lot about Connor Wigman taking the next step. Well, Thomas will be a big reason if Wegman's able to take the next step for him to doing that. 67 catches, 966 yards, 12 touchdowns last year. 9 of those 12 came when he was lined up in the slot, which was the most of any receiver in college football in 2025. And then how about this? His final 4 regular season games of 2025, 28 receptions, 371 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So 5 of his 12 total touchdowns came in the final 4 regular season games. And look, the way he finished the season, I think there's tons of optimism for this year. And I think he really put himself on NFL radars with the way that he finished the season. For a guy that a couple years ago was out of UAB to finish the season the way he did at Houston, the Power 5 level is remarkable, and then returning to Houston as well. And look, here's a guy, I think with Willie Fritz, he did a really good job of finding guys that have those Houston roots that wanted to come home, and Amari Thomas is one of those. The reason for me that Thomas earns the number 5 spot over some of the other offensive players, including quarterbacks that you could have ranked 4th or 5th on this list, is that he's the best non-quarterback offensive weapon in the Big 12 on a title contender. Maybe aside from one of my guys that's higher on this list, with the same quarterback entering a season explicitly designed to be more explosive. So it's the complete package here for Amari Thomas. This is a combination of what you did last year and projecting out for 2026. All right, Taman, who does James have number 4?
At number 4, he has the guy we just heard here on Big 12 Radio, Oklahoma State quarterback Drew Mestemaker.
All right, so Drew Mestemaker did not crack my top 5. I do have multiple quarterbacks, and you'll find out one of my quarterbacks checking in at number 4 here. But Mestemaker, look, he put up the best numbers in the country last year. He was number 1 in most quarterback statistics. North Texas's offense was top in college football in most statistics, easy for me to say. And so I get the pick. I think there's a lot of optimism. We, in the first segment of today's show, kind of documented how they put together the roster, but Wyatt Young from North Texas comes with them. Caleb Hawkins from North Texas at running back comes with them. So, I can totally see why Drew Mestemaker would be number 4. We have totally different lists here. This is great. Number 4 for me is Noah Fafita, the Arizona quarterback. He's a throwback. Just one of 5 seniors or redshirt senior scholarship quarterbacks in 2026 who have remained their entire careers at one FBS school. So he's a total throwback here. And his offensive coordinator, Seth Dagey, entering year 2 with him. First time in his time at Arizona that Fafita enters the season with the same offensive coordinator from the previous year. Dagey called Fafita, quote, the best quarterback he's ever been around, and Dagey's been around some good ones. He noted that Fafita picked up their new system faster than any quarterback he's ever coached, and, that speaks volumes as he's entering year 2 with Dagey. Fafita, very smart, 1.9% turnover-worthy play rate, tied for 8th nationally, and 26 big-time throws, tied for 12th, if you like some of those deep analytics. And he leads all active college quarterbacks with 73 career touchdown passes and is one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the country entering his 4th year as a starter. So Noah Fifita for me, number 4.
At number 3, James has the speedy Cameron Dickey from Texas Tech.
Interesting. All right, so our lists are totally different. He starts off with 3 players that I do not have in my top 5. But look, Cameron Dickey, and you could argue again for all 3 of these guys to make the list. He's the leading rusher, at Texas Tech, returning in a busy backfield, and a guy that wasn't even on the radar for people and analysts a year ago. He burst out of the scene. He's a legit 3-down back. And look, while Quentin Joyner returns with Jacoby Williams, he's still a hugely important piece for Texas Tech's success heading into this all-important year. Number 3 for me is Bear Bachmeier, the BYU quarterback. I might have him too high, especially given what I just said about Fifita. At 4, I have Fifita, who has 73 career touchdown passes and is basically leading all active quarterbacks. Bachmeier, for me, it's all about the context, and I've talked a lot about this, but the fact that he put up the numbers that he put up last year, despite being a true freshman who spent spring at Stanford, so it's a balance of what you did and what I project out for you in 2026. I think this is the heavy riser here. For a guy that they built their offense, Aaron Roderick built BYU's offense sort of to evolve slowly with Bear Bachmeier. It was built around short and intermediate pass concepts, which helped to protect Bachmeier again as a true freshman who didn't even spend spring football in Provo. I cannot wait to see what this offense looks like. It should be a lot more explosive just in terms of his ability to make plays down the field with his arm. And look, the dude is a gamer. I mean, he just shows up in big moments, help them win multiple games, taking the extra yardage, breaking tackles with his legs, a legitimate dual threat who makes the right play, even as a 17-year-old true freshman this past year. Bear Bachmeier for me checks in at number 3.
At number 2, James has the throwback, Noah Fifita from Arizona.
All right, so we do now finally have one player that's the same here. All the way to number 2. I have Fifita at 4. He's got Fifita at 2. I'm assuming, I can't assume that he's going to have the same number 1 as me. No, he's going to have L.J. Martin at number 1. And L.J. Martin is my number 2. Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. Led the conference in rushing, 1,300 yards rushing. Second nationally in the PFSN RB impact metric. Would have been probably a day 2, day 3 pick. Turn that down to return to BYU, who returns the same quarterback, similar offensive line, and the same system, and a 12-2 team that's a legitimate contender. And the historical piece here with L.J. Martin is he needs just 1,300 yards just to become BYU's all-time leading rusher. Jamal Williams' record, he would break it with 1,355. So there's historical context here, but I've got both Bear Bachmeier and L.J. Martin back-to-back on my list of top 5 offensive players in the Big 12, and for good reason. Those two together are a big reason why a lot of people expect BYU to compete at the top of the Big 12. All right, I'm assuming L.J. Martin is number 1 for James?
Ding, ding, ding. Number 1 is L.J. Martin from BYU.
Yeah. So James and I have 2 players the same on our lists. James went, as I did, going for variety. He only has 2 quarterbacks on his list. I have 3 quarterbacks on my list, and I'll get to the third in a moment here. He has an offensive tackle. I had a wide receiver. He does not have a wide receiver. So looking for some variety across the board. Now, I would disagree with Cotton because I don't know how good Cincinnati is going to be when I think about, ranking these players. Some of it is how important will they be on in terms of having a role to, helping a team win championships. But I digress. Sorsby for me, number 1. Again, I know people in the comments are going to be like, hey, we don't know about his eligibility. I am banking on eligibility here because it's not even about Sorsby hiring. It's not even about Sorsby hiring Kessler. It's more that Kessler took it on, and I think the possibilities that Kessler sees as a lawyer representing him. 7,000 yards, 60 touchdowns, and fewer than 25 interceptions in his career. He's also rushed for 1,000-plus yards and 22 touchdowns. And then his 2025 season was a statement. 36 total touchdowns, tied for 3rd nationally, and he owned the longest active streak of 2+ touchdown games among FBS quarterbacks, accounting for at least 2 touchdowns in 12 straight games. So, big-time player here, Brendan Sorsby. And again, the fact that he was being recruited and being sought after by LSU, Miami, Indiana, for me, are the reason why he's the number one offensive player in the Big 12. All right, that wraps a bow around our top 5 offensive players and our top 5 series. Next week, we do the road to Arlington, breaking down each and every team. On the way next, though, let's get the 50,000-foot view of the Big 12 from Dan Rubenstein of Solid Verbal. It's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.